Hello and welcome to Thursday Thoughts. Thursday Thoughts? What on earth are they, I hear you ask? Well, my friend Lucy and I meet every week over on Instagram to talk all things personal growth because she is as obsessed with it as I am. And we decided that we might as well put those conversations out as a weekly podcast. So now you can listen to us chat here on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we'll be talking about topics such as spirituality, limiting beliefs, the ego, imposter syndrome, gratitude, meditation, confidence, and so much more. So if you're ready, here we go.
So I was just saying before you came on, so this is something that you and I have definitely we talked about routines and we talked about accountability, but I think you can't hear these things enough times. And also this is such a good time of year because obviously a lot of people are trying to, implement new routines into their lives. And I particularly wanted to talk about the sort of accountability piece because accountability is something that I am truly passionate about because guess what? It freaking works. And as you know, and anyone who's been listening to me for any length of time will know that I have not just one, but two morning accountability buddies, one of whom I call at 5 a.m., the second of whom I call at 5:30. And just that routine alone, just that, those particular accountability buddies, they have meant that I've stayed on track with my morning routine. And I won't go into this in loads of detail, but because I talked about this before, but when I very first started my morning routine 4 or 5 years ago, the one and only reason that I got a morning routine I started it and created a habit of it is because I at that time had an accountability buddy called Michaela, who I love to pieces, and we would take it in turns to feed each other at 5 a.m. every morning. And were it not for her, I can tell you now that there is no way that I would have got up on my own. There's just no way I would have done because I was never a quote morning person. So basically, I think that the main thing that I wanted to say to anyone listening or watching is that if you are trying to implement any kind of routine, any kind of habit into your life, really, really, really think. I mean, obviously not for everything. If you want to drink more water, you're not going to get accountability buddy. But if you want to do anything like something like getting up early or something like exercising or even, going out for a daily walk for 10 minutes, whatever it is, you may not think that there's anybody that you could use as an accountability buddy, but there will be somebody in your life, even if it's somebody that you only know online, but there will be somebody, if you just think about it, who you can use for accountability. And it is such an effective tool. It's a game changer. And I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, Polly, but I think it's something ridiculous. Like we're 96% more likely to do the freaking goddamn thing when we have accountability. It's huge. And of course it makes complete sense because when we are holding ourselves accountable, not just to ourselves, but to somebody else, we don't want to let them down. Like if we've said to somebody, I will call you at 6 o'clock to say that I'm about to get on my rebounder or go to the gym or whatever, when someone else is also relying on us, we're so much more likely to do it. And it just gives us that sense of accountability and it gives us a little bit more motivation. It really makes such a big difference. So yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody in your kind of immediate circle. It doesn't necessarily have to be your partner. It doesn't even have to be one of your friends. It can be somebody who you've met on freaking Instagram, but who is into whatever it is. But use accountability because it bloody works. And if you want to get these things going in your life, and if you're determined to, even if it's just one, it doesn't have to be lots of things. It could be just one thing. It could be, I want to start going for a walk 3 times a week for half an hour, that non-negotiable. You could make a deal with somebody that you're going to phone that person as you start that walk. It really does make such a difference, doesn't it? And also, Polly, like you and I, although we don't, have a specific thing that we hold each other accountable for, we hold each other accountable to this, for a start, to our Monday motivations every week. And also we hold each other accountable kind of in our businesses. Like we've had many conversations about our businesses and, keeping each other going and making sure that the other one doesn't give up when we've wanted to and all of that kind of stuff. And that in itself is accountability. So I could wang on about this for 3 hours, but I won't.
Yes. So yeah, and yes to all of that, and accountability, it totally works for me as well, and so many different ways. What I would say though, and I think particularly important to say at this time of year, when everybody's kind of trying to do maybe, it's like a almost can be like a reset time to start something new, is to really almost take a step back and think about the thing it is that you want to do. So, for example, if it is something like a morning routine, if it is getting up in the morning and it is more morning routine, really start to think about why is it you want to do it? What is the driver? What is the energy that is you are coming at it with? So, is it because you want some space for you? Amazing. If that's your motivated, it's the time to get some things done for you. We all need, in my opinion, to spend more time with ourselves and doing the things that we love. That's absolutely fantastic. And if it's coming from that place, then you've got a really positive energy behind it. If you're coming at it with the energy of like, I really ought to be getting up earlier because I really ought to be working my body out, and you really don't want to be doing it, but you're coming from that should or ought to energy, then to be honest, it's going to be bloody hard and you're going to white knuckle your way through it,
Mm,
and you're probably not going to stick with it, even if you have that account. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just don't think you're gonna enjoy any part of it. So I think first of all, you've got to be really super clear on the energy behind what the thing is you want to do. So for example, when I wanted to run a marathon, I wanted to run a marathon because it was just something on my bucket list I really wanted to do. It wasn't a should or a could, but I bloody needed so much accountability for that because it was still really hard. And so, but if I had not really wanted doing it, I was doing it because I ought to, or someone told me I should, then I just know I would not. But even with the accountability, I think I would have really, really been miserable and not done it. I hope that kind of
mm,
makes some sort of sense. So I think that's a really important thing. Make sure you've got the good energy behind it. And that's going to allow you to rely less on motivation altogether because you actually want to do it. And in terms of the accountability, yes, there is lots of different sorts of accountability. You can be self-accountable. So I'm quite good at that. It's like I can get myself a list or a chart or a plan, and it's like, right, it's a commitment to yourself. I'm going to stick to that plan. It's like this self-accountability. I do this a lot with training, like exercise or whatever. I stick with it. And what that does every time you do it, and I suppose this is with any sort of accountability, but I think particularly with self accountability, is that you are proving to yourself that you can trust yourself, and you're building that relationship of trust with yourself. If you let yourself down, what's that saying? It's like, well, I don't follow through
yeah,
on anything, I don't trust myself. And that's going to sort of trickle out into other areas
yeah,
of your life, and you're going to start giving up. But actually, by following it through and doing the thing,
yeah,
you build this incredible trust, and then that just fuels you and makes you feel so good with yourself. And then obviously if you've got accountability with somebody else, whether that's going to meet them to go and do something, it's someone calling you to hold you accountable, again, that's a trust with not just yourself, but with that other person as well.
mm,
And again, if you break that trust with that other person, again, that's going to trickle into other areas of your life. So it's
yeah,
so powerful in
yeah,
that sense. If when you stick to it, you're building all these really amazing qualities, which are going to just filter out everywhere else. Um, so yeah, I think that's an important part. And the other thing I wanted to say was I also think in order to do something which you want to do, but which you find difficult, so that's getting up earlier in the morning. And by the way, you and I love our morning routines. I love a morning routine because it means that I get to have that quality time to myself. But you might be someone who might find that quality time in the middle of the day or the end of the day. It's up to you where you find that, but it's about being able to embrace the discomfort and change your relationship with that discomfort, because life has loads of areas in it which are not comfortable. Yes, it's nice to have a heated house and a warm bed and shelter and all of those things which make us more comfortable. But actually, again, our relationship with discomfort, if we can improve that and accept that that's going to be there, then we are so much more likely to follow through on the things which make us a little bit uncomfortable, but the things we actually know are going to ultimately enhance our lives.
Yeah.
Then we're going to rely less and less on motivation. And I think the more that we can rely less on motivation, the more likely we are to follow through on our goals, because motivation is something which comes and go. We can't rely on it. So if we can
Hmm.
just build in this belief and this understanding that, gosh, it is going to be really, there are going to be times where I don't want to do it, but actually every time that comes up, say to yourself, but actually it's an opportunity to prove to myself that I can do it. And once I've
Mm.
done the thing, I'm going to feel greater. It's going to strengthen my relationship with myself, and it all works. So it's just being prepared for that discomfort.
Yeah, totally. Completely. I mean, I completely agree. And in fact, one thing that I think might help in this, and this morning was a good example actually in my own life. So I have been listening to affirmations for years. I think affirmations are amazing, and I think, but I don't speak them out because I think, I just knew when I started using affirmations that it was really unlikely that I was going to stand in front of the mirror every morning and go, I am enough, I am worthy, I am fucking wonderful, blah, blah, blah. But listening to affirmations in your own voice is actually really effective. And I've been using them to basically rewire my brain for several years now. But the reason I bring this up now in terms of what you were saying is because when it comes to, and just picking up on what you're saying about holding yourself accountable, like you so rightly say, when you do the things that you say that you're going to do, it makes you feel good about yourself. It gives you confidence. And when you don't do the things you say you're going to do, it makes you feel like shit about yourself. And the reason I bring up affirmations is because in my affirmations that I've just recorded, I've added a bit about my strength training and my exercise routine every day. And long story short, I've basically said, I am so pleased with myself, because I always start with I am. I am so pleased with myself that I have stuck to my 3 times a week strength training and rebounding. I'm so proud of myself that I've stuck to my exercise routine, 3 or 4 times a week, because now I feel like my body is really strong. I feel like my body is back to what it used to be, because as you know, I put on loads of weight in menopause, and I want to get rid of it because it doesn't feel like me. And I just basically talked about this particular thing that I want to be able to wear that makes me feel like me, and blah blah. And I've put this in my affirmations. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because just having that reminder, just listening to my affirmations in the morning and saying, I'm so pleased that I've done this, then any part of me that didn't want to get on my rebounder and didn't want to pick up those weights, which of course I fucking didn't. I hate having to exercise. I hate it. But because I'd said this in my affirmations, it reminded me and made me think, yes, I am going to do this. It's almost like we have to tell ourselves, I know I don't want to do this, and I know this is going to be hard, but I'm going to freaking well do it anyway, because I know how much good it's going to do me down the line. And again, it's putting that sort of coin in your confidence bank, because when you do the thing that you say you're going to do, you feel so much better. And of course it's not going to be easy. And you talking about the discomfort is such a kind of valid point, because none of us want to do the things that are uncomfortable. None of us do. We don't want to, but if we want to improve our lives, and if we want to live the kind of best possible life that we can, we have to do those things, because in order to be successful in anything, we simply have to embrace the fact that there's going to be shit bits, that we're going to feel annoyed that we have to do this. It's going to feel like a slog and all the rest of it. But when we understand that, and we understand that that discomfort is absolutely part of it, then it can kind of spur us on, and we can, yeah, like you say, we have to get used to feeling uncomfortable. And you and I have talked about discomfort before on Thursday Thoughts. We've talked about how important it is to embrace discomfort and understand that it's something that we just need to get used to in our lives if we want to get anywhere and if we want to improve our lives. Because if we stay in our comfort zone, we ain't moving anywhere. We're going to stay exactly where we are. And if exactly where we are is exactly where we want to be, then awesome. But for most of us, there are things that we want to change, and there are things that we want to do more of or less of. There are things that we want to achieve if we're honest with ourselves. So yeah, embracing that discomfort is so incredibly important. But yeah, just back to the affirmations, I highly recommend recording affirmations that when it comes to routines and habits, add in something about the habits that you want to, like, for example, you could say, I am so grateful that I've started drinking 2 litres of water a day. I feel so much better. I feel fully hydrated. Because just by reminding yourself when you listen to your affirmations first thing in the morning, you're more likely to actually implement whatever routine or habit it is that you're trying to implement,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. I love that. And also, when we have a routine, actually what it's doing, it's saving our brain space, our mental capacity. These days we are so mentally overloaded with so much information. We're just constantly consuming, and sometimes it just can feel a lot. But if we actually have a really good routine of all the things that we really want to do, which we know are going to be good for us, and for me that is in the
Mm,
morning, because if I don't do it in the morning, I don't do it. But
same.
it's an opportunity to have time to myself, to do the things I want to do, to connect to myself, to understand myself. Nowadays it's very difficult to find space and time to really know yourself. And I think if you
Mm,
don't know yourself, then everything in life becomes much harder. And I think so many of us have become so disconnected from ourselves. Anyway, but that's for me is what's so important in the morning. But if it's a routine, and if you literally don't have to think about what you're going to do, you're just freeing up brain space and brain
yeah,
capacity, and you just go through the motions. It's like, how often do you really think about cleaning your teeth in the morning? You don't, because it's just it's an automatic
yeah,
thing that you do. So I believe that actually some of these routines are really, really beneficial when they are just literally that routine. I don't think routine's good in every part of our lives, because actually sometimes I think it's good to break the routine and pattern disrupt, because actually then things can come a bit stale. But I think in terms of the habits that we want, which we might find difficult or uncomfortable, which we want to really install, those are good things to become routine into our day. And there's so many techniques that you can use. You can habit stack. So,
yeah,
for example, if you are cleaning your teeth, and you're really short on time, this could be a really good opportunity to be really mindful for 2 minutes while you're
mm,
brushing your teeth, really focusing on what you're doing. If you're washing your hands, focus on what you on the feel of the water. You could do some squats while you're waiting for the kettle to boil. Habit stacking is such a powerful way of starting a new habit and going. So your brain goes, right, well, when I clean my teeth, I am mindful for 2 minutes.
yeah,
When the kettle boils, I am going to squat. And so that just gets your brain into thinking, oh, this is when I do that thing.
mm,
And it becomes a proper
yeah,
habit. Putting it in your diary. So my inner space membership breathwork 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, 7:30. Every Friday I send an email out to my members saying, right, here's the link. Look at your diary next week and book it in. Book it in now. Sign up to the ones you're going to come to. Book it in now. If you're going to do a recording, put it in your diary now. So you are accountable again to yourself. Make it a non-negotiable.
mm,
And with all these things, it's how much weight and how much priority you give to it. If it's important to you, put it in the diary and make it a non-negotiable. If you don't do that and you don't prioritize it, then you're going to go, oh, well, I'll just have another half an hour in bed. Or, oh, well, my husband said that he wants to do that. And it doesn't matter because I can cover for the kids or whatever that is. It's like, no, it's
mm,
in the diary. You have an appointment. That is your time. Okay, things might crop up, but if you can, keep that appointment with yourself,
yeah,
because we're so good at just going, oh, it doesn't really matter when it's
yeah,
something which is for you, but ultimately it does matter. It's important. So make it important, make it a priority. We've
yeah,
all got the same amount of time,
yeah,
but it's what you prioritize is
totally.
what, you could say to somebody, oh, but you're so lucky you've got more time than me, or you don't have this, or no, we've all got stuff going on.
Yeah.
What are you going to make a priority? Put it in and keep to it. A very quick break to ask you to hit the follow or subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're enjoying this episode, I'd be super grateful if you could hit those stars and rate it too. Thank you.
And on that note, actually, when it comes to priorities, you're so right. We all have the same amount of time, and we can all say, I'm too busy for this, I'm too busy for that. But do you know what? The truth is that we will do what we want to do.
Yeah.
And a good example in my own life is, as you know, I started a second freaking podcast, and I'm already, like we all are, I'm already very busy and I have a lot on. However, I'm doing this podcast with two friends. It's called Three Single Women, for any of the singles listening to this or watching this. But basically, when my friend Pip messaged me to ask if I'd be up for it or be interested, I was like, hell yes. Guess why? Because I want to. It really does boil down to what we want to do. We will say that we do not have time for the things that we don't actually want to do. The things that we actually do want to do, we will find the time. It is as simple as that. And I just want to say about, so going back to the podcast, like I could have easily said, no, it would have been completely valid if I'd said, there's no fucking way I've got time for this in my life. But I didn't, because I want to do it. So it was just a yes. And I knew, even though it was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I know that I will find the time. I will find the time, because we do all have 24 hours in the day. It's just, we've got to ask ourselves how we're using them. And to go back to what you were saying about the habit stacking thing, I love habit stacking, because there are so many ways that we can implement these habits into our lives and these routines easier by using habit stacking. For example, if you want to listen to affirmations, why not listen to them in your headphones when you go for your walk first thing in the morning, or whenever. There are so many ways and like you say, the brushing your teeth, you could be listening to affirmations while you're brushing your teeth. You could be drinking your first half a litre of water whilst you're waiting for the kettle to boil for your coffee. There are so many ways that we can stack up those habits. But just going back to accountability again, really, it's actually, Polly, I was going to ask you, when it came to your marathon, what did you do for accountability? How did you hold yourself accountable, or were you holding yourself accountable to somebody else when you did your marathon?
So the first thing I did is I put it out on Instagram that I was going to run a marathon,
I
and
remember.
I think I also said it on my podcast
Yeah.
that I was going to run a marathon. So I had that wider accountability. I'd put it out there, so it was a bit like, oh shit, I've said it now. I'm going to have to do it, and then that was sort of on a broader scale. I did also have Giles, my husband, who was doing it too. So we are very good at keeping each other accountable. He really is brilliant for me, because he's incredibly motivated to exercise, and he's very, very disciplined. So he's a brilliant accountability partner. And also, as well as that, I had my training plan printed out on paper. I had it literally on my desk at all times, so I could see it. And as I would go, I would tick off each training session. I would tick it off, and it gave me so much joy every
Yeah.
time I could tick one off and get closer and closer. So I had three different ways of being accountable for that, which I needed. And I was I was so happy I did it. And in fact, I loved the training process. Although it was hard, I still really, so that's the thing, you can love something and find it really difficult. It's
Yeah.
that duality. It's which lots of people say, my God, did you really enjoy going on these runs? It's like, well, maybe there were parts of it, yes, which were really bloody hard, but I loved that feeling afterwards of like, I've done it. And even
Yeah.
when it was pissing it down with rain. So that's what you need to remember. It can be hard, but it can also be really, really enjoyable. And and it just, as you say, builds that confidence within you that you can do hard things.
Yeah.
And that just then spurs you on, it builds your resilience.
Yeah.
Um, and also, I would say, I mean, so Giles today, so he's totally motivated to exercise, but he's been having quite a few niggles and injuries recently. So he, for the first time in his life, and it starts today, he has signed up with well, it's like a group coaching program. He found it on Instagram. It was brilliant, obviously brilliant marketing because he totally targeted over 50s, people who want to do endurance running. And he's decided that he's going to sign up to that, and he's got that sort of accountability to train and probably learn how to train in a slightly different way, which
Mm,
is going to allow him to train better and smarter. But I think that's another thing to mention, is that sometimes it's good to pay, it's good to invest in
yeah.
yourself, in a coach,
Yeah.
in somebody who knows what they're talking about,
Yeah.
who can keep that accountability. So I have, at the moment, I've got quite a few breath clients, clients who are learning to breathe better, to help with anxiety, to well, help reduce anxiety, to help with various different issues. And each week we meet. And that means that each week I'm going to say to them at the beginning of each session, say, have you got on? What have you done the exercises I gave you?
Mm,
And they always say, because they know that they're going to meet me, they do the work. And it's the same with my
yeah.
coaching. When I've done my menopause coaching, they do the work because they know otherwise they've got to come and say to me, no, I haven't. And I'm
Yeah.
going to ask why.
Yeah.
And so, and that is so important. And often when our time together finishes, they always go, oh my gosh, now what do I do? Because I don't have that accountability. It's so
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It is.
sometimes it is worth investing, because you can
Yeah.
have I always say 8 weeks to 3 months is a brilliant time to really embed some new behaviors into your
Yeah.
life.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more. Like investing investing in ourselves. Like if you need to pay, if you can, and you need to pay for accountability, then do that. And because that is it's going to um make you freaking do it. Like you say, when when your clients don't do it, they have to tell you that they haven't done it, and that is the probably the best way if you're, especially
Yes.
and also when you're paying money, then
Mm,
you're more, when you are investing in yourself and you're actually putting freaking skin in the game, you're so much more likely to do the thing that you said you're going to do. So I know it's not possible for everyone, but again, we've got to prioritize. Where are we putting our money? Are we just pissing a whole load of money up the wall on pints in the pub, or another meal out, or another jumper, or whatever it is? It's about prioritizing the things that are important to you. But all I know is that when I do the things that are important to me, that are incredibly uncomfortable, I feel good about myself. Like, and I always comes back to building morning routines, because you and I both know how amazing they are, and how, like, when I do my morning routine, I feel like myself. I feel like myself. It's as simple as that. When I don't do it, I don't feel like myself. I feel
mm,
like shit.
mm,
So it's incredible how, and when you get that accountability and you do the goddamn thing, then you are going to feel so much better about yourself. And who the hell doesn't want that? We all want that. So try, either, like you say, you can hold yourself accountable by posting something on Instagram about something you're going to do, or you can I've done that before, where I've talked about something on the podcast, or I've talked about something to a friend, or in Thrive Slowly, my membership, I've talked about something, because that is a way of holding yourself accountable. Or you can actually find an account. I mean, accountability buddies are priceless. So again, going back to what I said at the very beginning, you can find someone. It doesn't have to be somebody in your immediate life, a family member or a friend who you see. It can be somebody you've met online or on a course, or somebody, vaguely just think about the person who might be interested in doing the thing that you want to do, and reach out to them. Like, what harm can it do? They might just say yes. And if you get accountability, it's going to change your goddamn life.
yeah.
The
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
So on that note, I think
I think we've
we've
got
been,
quite a lot to
it's
say on
not,
this subject.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's 9:30, so we can
Brilliant.
bring it to a close. But thanks everybody who watched slash listened, and
Thank you.
hopefully this has been helpful. And
Yes.
I'll see you next week. God knows what we'll be talking about next Monday.
Yeah.
We'll find out at about 8:30 on the day, probably. All
Perfect. Thanks,
right,
everybody.
love. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.